Welcome to my Introduction to VBA for Excel video. This is a course that I wrote a couple of years ago, and it's a good starting point to work with VBA. This video is broken into sections, so you can go to the section that you require. Follow along with me to gain the most success out of this video. When I'm referring to F8, I'm referring to the F8 key on the top of your keyboard. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do is you need to have your Excel workbook open. Now, we need to have our developer tab here on our workbook. And if you don't have your developer tab, what you're going to do is you're going to right click on the menu bar here, anywhere, it doesn't matter. And you're going to select Customize Ribbon. And then you receive a dialog box up, and it says Customize Ribbon again, and then on the right side there's the tabs, and make sure that you have the checkbox on before the developer tab. So when you have that on, then you say OK, and now you should have the developer tab on your screen. So what we're going to do here is from our developer tab, now we're going to select it. So what you're going to do is click this, and then you're going to get a new screen up here. Now, what we would like to do now is we'd like to put some tools on this window so that we can write code properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to click on the View button here from the menu bar, and we're going to select Project Explorer. Now, this is basically a map of your Excel workbook. It tells you that you've got one sheet on it named Sheet 1, and so we need this for future reference. It's nice to have when we're naming worksheets and workbooks. So we'd like to have a little bit of a window for us to write some code into. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Insert on our menu bar, and we're going to insert Module. Now, this brings you up to a blank screen here where you can enter your code. Now, all code starts with the word sub, or all macros start with the word sub. So we're going to type in the word sub, and then we're going to leave a space, and we're going to type in the word practice. We're going to type in the word practice, and then we're going to leave a space, and we're going to go opening bracket, closing bracket, and then we're going to press enter. Automatically, you will have an end sub put up there. And now these are the parameters. You need to enter any code in between the sub and the end sub. So this is the area where you would enter code. So a macro is basically a set of instructions that's telling Excel to do some particular task. And so let's start very simply. What we're going to do is we're going to enter one line of. So what we're going to type is selection dot unmerge, and then press tab, and it will put in the capital letters for you. You now have a little piece of code here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to minimize this, and we're going to go back to our main sheet. And I'm going to go into B3, and I'm going to type in the words, my name is Barb, press enter. Now, this doesn't fit into one cell, so what we're going to do is go back to the Home tab. We're going to select cells B and C, and then we're going to go up to the Merge and Center button on our toolbar here, and now the words will be centered across two columns. Now we leave it selected, and now we're going to go and run our little code that we've just written. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our Developer tab, and we're going to go to Macros. And now we have the practice that we've just created, and now we're going to run this. Now the text is centered, but it's in separate cells. So if I click on the first cell, you have nothing. Click on the second cell, you have all of the text, and click on the third cell, and you have nothing. So all the text is now in the B cell and not in the B and C cell as a merged cell. So now if we are going to go and save this, what we need to do is if we go, so if we have selected Save As, it's not going to let you save it as XLSX. Because you have a little macro in it, you need to save it as the first option, Excel macro enabled workbook XLSM. And so once you've named it that, you will be able to save it and you will be able to run it again. So congratulations, you have written your first macro. Let's go on. So what we're going to cover right now is we're going to cover some naming conventions in VBA. After you write your title, the next thing you have to declare is your variables. And so your variables are declared with the statement DIM, which is short for dimension. It's telling VBA what variables we're using. The syntax for this is dim, and then you put the name of the variable, and then you put as, the word as, and then type. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the common variable types that particularly we'll be using in this class. Okay, so long is is a short form for the long integer. So basically, it's just calling it an integer. Double is for a number which has decimal places on it. Boolean is true, false, yes, no. Currency is similar to double, but only a maximum of 4 decimal places. String is what holds your text. It's people's names and addresses and that type of thing. And date holds, you declare both date and time for holding both a date or a time. You declare it as a time. What we're going to do is we're going to start using these, and you can see how they work. So I have a new sheet open here, and so I'm going to my Developer tab. I'm going to Visual Basic, and then I'm going to open a new module. We have Sheet 1, and it's named Sheet 1. Okay, so now I'm going to go Insert and Module. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this new sub add new sheet. Now you need to have underlines between the words because you can't have spaces in the title. So I'm going to type in sub, and then I'm going to go add and an underline, and I'm going to go new, and I'm going to go an underline, and I'm going to go sheet. And then I'm going to put my 2 brackets, my opening and closing brackets, and I'm going to press enter. And there you go. There's your, like we showed you before, you automatically get an end sub. So now let's put a few lines in there so we have some space to write some code in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type dim here, and I'm going to go, and then I'm going to say next date. And and then I go as to tell it what it is, and then I call it a date. And here it comes up. You start typing date in here, and it tries to fill it in for you. And I'm going to press enter, and that's good. And you can tell it's accepted it because it's changed the date to blue and the dim to blue. Okay, so let's declare another one. Let's go dim, and I'm going to go end date as date. Okay, and so we've got two values declared as a date. Now let's go dim, and I go X as a long integer. And then I am going to go dim one more time. And I can go start date as a date. Okay. So now we've got all our declarations going. So let's go back to the naming conventions. So what we're going to do is we're going to name the parts of the sheet here. The three most important things that you'll be calling up is the workbook, the worksheet, and the cells. So when you use the worksheet, you're telling it where the code is going to run. So which part of the Excel workbook are you going to run this code on? Worksheets. You can refer to a worksheet as by what it's named. So if it's named sheet 1, then you put in brackets sheet 1. You can refer to it as the Project Explorer window where it appears in the Project Explorer, or the sheet code. And that's a way that I tend to use it. So I go worksheet sheet 1. Using the sheet code has its advantages. So if you write some code and then at later time somebody changes the name of sheet 1 to be Monday, for example, then your code's not going to run. But if you name it sheet 1, dot sheet 1, like I have here, no matter what the name of the sheet is, it'll always work. The other way you can refer to a worksheet is you can refer to active sheet. I use this when I'm going to have the code run on many sheets. So whenever you're on a sheet, then that will be considered the active sheet. And so you don't have to refer to it by name. This is also good when your sheet is changing. The output is changing to a certain sheet, but you don't know what the sheet's name is, so it's going to be the active sheet. The other thing that we're going to be referencing is the parts of the sheet. So the cell is the location on the worksheet, the sheet that you're referring to. Cells are referred to by using the row and then the column. So cells R3 is row 4 and the third column. Now, there's another thing called a range, and a range is a collection of cells. And they have to be in sequence. You can go A1 to A4, or you can go, as long as they're connected, you can't go A1, A5, A7. They have to be all in a row, or all together. So if they can have one cell, or they can have practically a whole sheet, is what is the range is used. So let's go back and show you how to use this on the code itself. So here's our code that we've declared the values for to start with. And the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna initialize X, and we will talk about this big time when we talk about for loops, but I'm gonna go X equals 1, just to give it a starting point. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to go sheet 1. So the sheet 1 I'm getting from right here in the project window, and it says sheet 1 and then brackets sheet 1. but I'm just going to go with just the straight sheet one so they can rename it or whatever they like. And so I'm going to go sheet one dot cells. Now, I would like A1. And A1 in the world of Excel is the first row, the first column. So I'm going to go 1, comma 1. And then I'm going to go closing the bracket, and then we're going to select that. So we want to go there first. So I'm going dot and select. So that's how you go to that cell. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say what the format is for that sheet 1 cells 1 1. So we're going to type this in again. And then I'm going to put a dot. There's always a dot after. There's always a dot after the naming of the cell because you're going to tell it what to do. And I'm going to put in number format. And I'm going to go equals. And then I'm going to put in how I want the date to appear. So I would like it to appear as quotation marks to surround it, DD dash MMM dash and four digits for the year. So I'm going to Y. And then I'm going to close the quotation marks, and I'm going to close the bracket. I'm going to press enter. Okay, so now let's refer to sheet 1, cells 1, and we're going to tell it what to put it in there. So I'm going to say, once again, sheet 1, cells. And I'm going to put value. So this is, we've been referring to it's being first selected. The second time is we're going to say what we want the number to look like in there. And now we want it to be, we're going to give it a value. And so what we're going to say is we're going to say value equals. And then what we're going to do is type in the word date. It's going to take the date that is on your computer and insert that into that cell using the format that we have provided in the line below or line below above. So I'm just going to type in the word date. And then we're going to press enter. Okay, so the next cell that we're going to put in is we're going to put cells, dot, always a dot after the word cells, entire column. So there you go, entire column. You can select that. And then we're going to say auto fit. Auto fit, and there it is coming up. And so we're going to put in that, meaning that it's going to, after the data is put in there, it's going to make sure that there's enough space for these dates to appear. And so then we're going to press enter. So we have declared up in here in our dim values start date as date. So what we're going to do is we're going to give us the start date of value. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go start date. Now, this is just a little add-in for me. I'm a lousy typist, And so I quite often will go up here and double click this and copy it and bring it down here just to make sure that the spelling is the same and I have the capitals in the same places. That's just a little heads up for, it's one of those things that you can't find the error, and it's usually because I can't type. So just make sure that what you've declared the value as and what this is exactly the same. And so what we're going to do is we're going to assign the value to this. We're going to say start date equals, and we're going to go sheet 1, and then we're going to go dot cells, and then we're going to go opening bracket 1, comma 1, and closing bracket, and then we're going to say dot value. So whatever we have in that cell is what is the start date in this sequence. Okay, so now we're going to do is go for a for loop. I'm not going to spend very much time in this because in the later section we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about for loops. So I'm going to go for x equals 1, 2, 5. I only want this to happen 2, 5. So I only want this to happen 5 times. And so then immediately after that, I put in the next x. It's not necessary for you to put in the x, but it's a good practice to get into, because there's only one for going here, but sometimes you have 4 loops on top of each other. And so it's nice to be able to differentiate which next one you're doing. Okay, so now let's go a couple spaces here, and let's go tab for indenting this. And so we go next date, which we've declared up here, next date as a date. So next date equals start date, which we've just assigned. There I go again. I just put a capital on start date. Plus x. And so now that's defining what next date is. And now what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to add another sheet. And so what we're going to do is go sheets dot add, and then we put a space in, because now we're going to tell it where to add that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say after and colon and equals, and then we're going to put sheets dot count. So what that is doing, it's going to count whatever we're going to add a new sheet after the last sheet. So we're going to go sheets dot count, and then we're going to press enter. Okay, so now we're not calling it, now we've added a new sheet here. So now we're going to refer to it as active sheet and not sheet 1. And so we're going to go active sheet cells. And we're back at the 1, 1 for A1. Dot number format up from above, similar to this above. And we go equals, and then we do the same thing. We go opening brackets and we put in quotation mark DD dash MMM dash 4Ys, a closing quotation marks and a closing brackets. And then we go enter. And what we're going to do then is we're going to put in the value into that cell. And so then we say active sheet cells 1, 1. And then we go dot value, so we're putting something in it, equals next date. And then we do similar to the top here, we go cells dot entire column. I'm going to select it so I don't have to type it. And I'm going to go dot auto fit. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to go active sheet name. Now we're going to change the sheet name on the tab, and we're going to go active sheet dot name and we'll go equals. So now we're going to change it to format. And so what we're doing is we're changing it to next day, but we're going to format it similar to what we have on the sheets. And then we're going to do a comma, and then we're going to put in our quotation marks, DD-MMM-YYY, and one more Y. We're going to end our quotation marks and we're in our bracket. So that looks good. I think we have everything written here. So now, when I'm going through code for the first time, I always go through step by step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor at the top of the code here, and I'm going to press the F8 button, and it's going to go through step by step. So I'm going to go each step. And there it's put the date in. You can see on the sheet that it's put the date in now. And now it's going to go through the for loop. It's going to add 5 more sheets doing this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go. Now, going through like this, if we go and hover over what the next date is, it tells you what next date is assigned to now. So my initial date was the 23rd, so this is the 24th, so that's perfect. Okay, so now let's go continue going F8. And now it's going to auto fit to make it fit in there. And now it's going to change the sheet name. And you can see on the bottom of the sheet here, the sheet name is now changed to this date. Now, if you've run through it once, you know that it's going to work. So now to continue on that, you either press F5 or you press this green button at the top here for it to complete the cycle. Okay, so we've got our code to work, and we have declared values, found cells, gone from one sheet to the other sheet, called one by the sheet code, sheet 1. We've called the other sheet by active sheet, and we've declared the values to go into each one of these. So here is another set of code that you have now mastered. So try this, and I will have an exercise for you to declare some values and to run some simple code. So we're going to now talk about for loops in this section. In this little piece of code that we wrote earlier, we have here basically what we're doing is we're creating new sheets. And so we're not exactly going down a sheet. We're just trying to repeat things so many times. And so here we have set the counter x equals 1, so it's the first time. And then we have the for loop. And the for loop says for x equals 1 to 5, so he wants it to do 5 times. And then there's a number of steps that it does here, and then the word next. Now, the second thing I wanted to point out is notice how when the convention of formatting these loops, notice how the for loop stands out here. And so that you can tell exactly what's between the for and the next because it's all indented. It's easy to indicate where the for loops are. Now, for most cases, we don't have the luxury of just saying for doing it this many times, we need to go down a sheet or go across a sheet. And so what I'm going to show you in the next example is how we do a for loop to go down a sheet. Okay, so here I have a sheet and I have some names I've generated out of the random name generator. And so I have names from 2 to 11. And then I have columns F through J with Monday to Friday in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to write code to go through all of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to the Developer tab. We're clicking Visual Basic. And we're going to go Insert. And we're going to insert a module. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this sub, and we're going to call it bold each. Okay, opening bracket, closing bracket, and then we're going to press enter. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare some values here. So the only value that the only values that we need to declare is our row and our column. So I'm going to go dim r as long and then I'm going to do the same thing, dim c as long. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to set our row. And so by looking at my sheet here, I can see that my row starts on 2. So I'm going to put my r equals 2. Now, if we look at this, and I'll bring it down, if we look at our days of the week, it starts on F, which is 6. And so I'm going to make my C equals 6. So I'm going the easy way. I'm making R equals being the row number and C equals a column number, so it'll be clear. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a for loop, and we're going to say, what I want to do is I want to go down and I want to bold each one of these names as we go down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a for loop, first of all, for the rows. And so I'm going for R equals, so that's my first is it's starting at a 2, and it's going to 11. And so my end is going to be 11. Okay, so now the next thing I absolutely do, aligned to the same, let's put next. Now we're going to have two things going, so why don't we do a next R so it's clear to us what we're doing next of. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to go and we are going to select each of the cells here. So this is B2, so I go under my for statement here, I press the tab key once, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up the cells. So I'm using the sheet code, so I go sheet 1, cells. Now, R is what our first value is, so let's put an R in there. And if we look there, the column is 2. And we're going to select it. Okay, so then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make that cell, or that cell that contains the name, make them bold. So since I have it selected now, it's the active cell. So I'm going to go active cell dot format, or sorry, font dot bold, and then I go equals true. And then that's the end of my statement here. So now we've got our code written. Let's try running through this and see whether it works. We can go F8. We're going to the top, right where the title is, and we're going F8. And it's assigning those values, and now it's going for the first one. It's from R from 2 to 11. Okay, so we F8 through there, and there you can see Brian has become bold, and now the next name has become bold, and now Louise has become bold. So now that you know it works, and you'd like to continue to the rest of it complete, so you can either press F5, or you can select this this green arrow at the top here, and so now all of these are bold. So the for loop has gone through each of the rows and made these cells in each of these rows bold. So now let's go work on the columns. So now let's do very similar, a for loop for the column. So we go for C equals 6 to 10. And then I'm going to put a couple lines in, and I'm going to put my next C. Okay, and now let's go up and let's do very similar to the top. We're going to go sheet 1 cells using the code, and instead we're going to now if we look at this, the days of the week are in the second row here. So we're going to put 2 for the row, and we're going to put the second is going to be C for the column. What we're going to do is dot select, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did the other one. We're going to go active cell font, press the tab, dot bold equals true. Okay, now let's click away. Now, so all of these are bold from the last time we ran the code, so I'm just going to select them all. I'm going to the Home tab, and I'm taking the bold off. And so now that they're not. And so now let's run through our code again. And so what we're going to do, so I'm going to F8 through this code. And then it's going to go back and bold all these letters here. Okay, so now it's gone through here, and it's going to bold the days of the week. So now you can see that by using the for loop, you can go advanced either by rows or by column. And the other thing that you can see here is our 2 for loops stick out because we have them indented so you can see exactly where the for loop is. I will have something for you to try after this. Let's keep going. So now we're going to talk about if loops. If loops, you're testing for a condition. So if, and you state in the brackets there the condition, so if that's true, then you complete the statements in between the if loop and the end if. So now let's show examples. So on my workbook here, I have, starting on B2, I have numbers and they're incrementing from 2 to 18. And so now let's write some code using some if loops here. So I'm going to the Developer tab, I'm going to Visual Basic, and I'm going to insert a new module. And I'll leave this here so we can see what's happening. So insert and module. So I'm going to call my little file here, I'm going to call it if loops. So I'm going to go sub if loops and then I'm going to go opening bracket, closing bracket, and press enter. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to declare is we're going to declare R as long, because that's going to be our row number. So I'm going to go dim R as long. Okay, so the first loop that we're going to do is very simple. And so I'm going to say, now with if loops, if loops does not actually control the flow, it controls the action of the flow. So I need to have a for loop to go here first of all, so that it moves along my sheet. So I'm going to go, first of all, I'm going to go R equals 2, because that's where my numbers start. And then I'm going to do a for loop. So I'm going for R equals 2 to 8. Okay, and then just to make sure everything's, let's put our next in the bottom here. And I'm going to go my next R, just it's a good practice to put the R there. And so now below my for loop, I'm going to do an if. And so I'm going to say, if these numbers are greater than 5, then what I'm going to do is in the next column, I'm going to multiply these numbers times 10. So we're going to do if, and our condition is if sheet 1 dot cells R dot value is greater than 5, and then you put the word then in there. And then so if that's true, then what we're going to do, so that absolutely positively when you put the first if, you put an end if, just so that you don't forget it in the end. Okay, so now what I do, if the number is greater than 5, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it times 10. So then I'm going to go press a tab to go in there to indent it, and I'm going to go sheet 1 dot cells R comma 3. So I'm going to go to the next column. I'm not going to disturb this column, and I'm going to go dot value, and I'm going to go equals sheet 1 dot cells, and I'm going to go R comma 2, and then I'm going to multiply it. So I'm going to put the star for times 10. Okay, so let's run through this and see if it works. So I'm going up the top and I'm going F8. And so there, it's multiplying all of the values. Now, notice it's only going to 8, and we've dragged our numbers down to 10, so we know that the for loop is working. So all of these values have been multiplied by 10. And so to end my program's still running, so I'm going to click on this to end it. It's called the reset button. Okay, so now we've got a basic if loop going in between a for loop. But now let's write another one. Let's put 2 conditions on this. So I want to put 2 conditions on this, and what I'm going to do, the first example I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you if with and. So I'm going to click out of there and I'm going to click back here. And so I'm going to write my next macro and I'm going to call it sub if with and I'm going to go opening bracket, closing brackets, and I'm going to press enter, and there we go. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel, so let's copy this from the top here, and then I'm going to paste it in the bottom here, and now I'm going to bring this up so we can see it. And so now in this one I want it to be if it's greater than 5 and less than 10. Okay, so now I've got the first condition there before between the last statement of the condition and the then I put in the word and. Okay, and then I go the same values again. So what I can do is I can copy that. And I can put that in there. Now, we want this, okay, we want it to be greater than 5, but we want it to be less than 10. Okay, so now I'm going to put in less than 10. So for it to do any of the statements, it has to meet both conditions. The and requires that they both be met. And so now what I'm going to do is I am going to make this sheet 4 or column 4 so we can see the difference between what we've got in 3 here. So once again, let me actually, why don't we just run this, because I think my code was working because we've run it previously. So there you go. Here we have my 2 values. They're greater than 5 and they're less than 10, and we have them multiplied here. Okay, so now let's use let's do another one, and we can combine if statements with the or. So I'm going to do a sub called if with or, and we'll do the next one. And so what we're going to do is we are going to copy this again. And then we're just going to add some additions to our code. So now what we're going to do is modify this. So I'm saying if this value equals, and I'll go equals instead of greater than, and I'm going to make it 4. And I'm going to change this and for an or. Now, one or the other conditions need to be met. They both don't need to be met. And so I'm saying if this value is 4 or if it is 8. So I'm going to take out the less than sign, I'm going to put an equal there, and I'm going to make it 8. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 5th cell, And then I'm just going to put a value in there. I'm going to put in, instead of multiplying the number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write in the word done. So I put in quotation marks. All right. So let's run this little macro we've written. So now it's either going to put in two spots if it's 4 or 8, and there we have our done for the 4 or 8. So the other way that you can combine if statements is a nested if, and we'll be doing the nested if next. So I'm going to create a new macro, and I'm going to call it sub nested ifs. And I'm going to do opening bracket, closing brackets, press enter. And then I am going to, what I'm going to do, is I am going to go and get my second value off of here, or my second if with and. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go Control C, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go Control V. Now we'll have to modify the code so we have two if statements. And so now in this one we said and, so I'm going to cut this. So I'm going Control X, and then I'm going to go, and it's giving me error messages, but that's expected. And I'm going to go tab here, and I'm going to go if, and Control V that, and then I'm going to put then. And immediately after I put the if statement in, I'll put this tab underneath it, I'm going to put an end if, just because that is the biggest thing that you run into problems with, is that your ifs don't have an end if statement. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my and here, because it's having a problem with me having an and in there without a second statement. And so now I have my code. Here I have my, so first of all, you're checking that it's greater than 5. And then if it's greater than 5, is it less than 10? And so we're doing this as a nested if as opposed to an and. And so now what we're going to do is we're not going to multiply this. We're going to make it 6. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the words in here, double done. Okay, so just for safety's sake, I'm going to F8 through here. Make sure I don't have any errors. There's my first double done, and it seems to be working. So I'm going to click my my F5, and I will continue on. So there you have, instead of multiplying, you've done it with a nested if, and you've created the double done on both of those. Now, I will include this file that I've just created in this video. I'll include this in the download section of this course, so you're able to download and try a few of these things out yourself. So next we're going to talk about the do-while loop. The do-while loop is an easy thing to manage to get through all of your data. So the syntax for a do-while loop is do while, and then you can put a condition here. So when that condition is met, then it will stop. And so then you have your statements that you want to do in between this condition. And then when to go to the next one, you go loop at the bottom here. And so let's write an example for you to see. So what I'm going to do on my sheet here is I'm going to A1 and I'm putting days. And then below that, I'm going to type in Monday and drag it for a few. And press enter. And then we're going to drag it down probably about 7 rows or 8. And so we have Monday coming back here again. I'm going to double click to make it all fit. And so now I'm going to go to the developer tab. I'm going to go Visual Basic, and I'm then going to insert a new module. And so I'm going to call this lots of loops. And so I'm going to go sub lots of loops. And then I'm going to go opening bracket, closing bracket, and I'm going to press the enter to get the end sub here. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare my values. So I'm going to declare, now I'm going to declare 2 in one statement. I'm going to go dim, and then I'm going to go R, comma, C as long. Now you're able to declare 2 values in one statement. They don't recommend that you go past 2 because it might get the system might get confused. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going down this first column here. So my R equals 2 because I don't want it to include the word days at the top. So I'm going to go R equals 2. And so now what I'm doing is I'm going to set out my do while. So I type in do, W-H-I-L-E. Now, so this column here, and so we're calling it out. So when this one does not equal, we want it to keep going until this is blank, right? And so what we're going to do, we're going to go sheet 1 dot cells R, comma 1. So we want the first column does not equal, and two quotation marks in a row means blank. And so then we're going to go, okay, so that while it's not blank, then what we're going to do is we're going to press tab to get the right formatting for our tag or our code here, and we're going to select the next cell. So we're going to go sheet 1 dot cells R, comma 2 dot select, and then with the active cell, the one that we've selected is now the active cell. We're going to say active cell interior, press tab, dot color index, and I'm going to select that one as well. And I'm going to go equals 34, which is a light blue. And then now, so I can go on to my next line, sorry, 34, and then I'm going to press enter. Now to go to my next line, I am going to say, we want to go to the next line, so R equals R plus 1. And then we put in the word loop. That means it'll keep going until it's done. So let's go, just to test out our code, let's go F8 through this. We put our cursor before the first one, and we go F8. And so it's looking to see whether it's empty or not, and then it's going to select the next cell, and it's going to change the interior color to blue, and then it's going to the next one. So it looks like it's working fine. So now I'm going to press my arrow key here, or I'm clicking my F5, and getting it to do the whole rest of them. So there we go. There, our little code is gone. While we still have values in there, then we're going to change this blue. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add a for loop in between our do while loop. So now that we have our do while loop working, let's put a for loop. We've learned the for loops in the previous section, so let's do a for loop as well in here. So in between your do while and your loop, which should actually come over here. So there, we can put a for loop in here. Now we've declared C up here and R being rows and C being columns. So let's put a for loop in here. And so now what we're going to say is for columns equals 3, because we've already got 2 filled up with the blue, right? So for columns equals 3 to 6, so we're going to start a for loop here. So for C equals 3 to 6, and then I'm going to go a couple spaces down and I'm going to put in my next C so I don't forget. And now I am going to go in here, I'm going to go below my 4, I'm going to press tab one time, and then I'm going to go cells, and now we're going to ask for cells, and we want the R number that we've selected and the C, and we're going to go dot value equals 100. Now, the only thing we haven't done here is before this loop, we need to tell it where the C is. So I'm going to put a space in here, and I'm going to go C equals 3. So we can tell it where to start from. So C equals 3. Okay, so now we have our do while loop, and then we have our for loop in the middle here. And so let's see how this works. So now let's go up to the top and let's go F8 through it. I'll pull this over a little bit so you can see things going in. And we'll go F8. And now it's selected the cell. And now it's changed to blue. And now it's going for the next 3 cells and it's going to make it 100. Okay, so now we know that it's working. We can press the F5 key or we can press the green at the top here. And there, if we pull this away, you can see that you have your blue background color and you have your 100 and all of these values. So now we have combined the for loop with a do while loop. The topic that I'm going to cover in this section is searching for data. In this sheet I have on my screen, I have 9,000 records on it. And if we were looking for an account number, you can do 2 methods of finding it. Now, both methods are looking in this column under account, and both methods are looking for this number here that I've selected. So let's look at the 2 methods of doing it. So I'm going to go to the developer tab, and I've already got the code written in here, but I was just going to demonstrate how efficient the 2 methods are. So in the first one, we have, I'm called the sub not using search, and I've declared R as long, account number, which is this, is a string, and I've set the account number to this cell, which is M2. Okay, and then I say for row 1 to 9,000, if sheet 1 R value select, and then if active cell value is account number, then active cell select, and then end if, and then you go to next row. So you can go like this. So let's F8 through this and watch how it goes. Now, each time it goes through, it selects each cell, and basically it will come up with the answer, but it's going to take a long time to go through 9,000 records. So there is, if you're just searching for like 100 records even, this is probably an efficient way of doing it. But let's look at one where we are searching for through 9,000 records, and we need to find this one. So what I've done on the second one, so I'm going to reset this, and now we'll go on to the next code. Okay, so in the next code, what we're doing is I've set R as long, account number as string, and I've set account number to the same cell as the one before. Let me go up to the top. Okay. Okay, and then I'm using a do-while loop, do-while sheets. Sheet 1 cells R1 is not blank, so it's nothing. What I've done here is I've declared find range as a range. Here it's a command, so it's set find range equals sheets 1 column A, so anything in column A, find what account number is, that's what we're looking for. And now we're searching in everything. We're looking at formulas, we're looking at the number as a whole, we're searching by rows, we're searching the direction of next match case false, it doesn't have to have the same case. Search format false, it doesn't have to have the same format. As long as you have that number there, we're happy. Now, if it doesn't find anything, then it's going to send a message box, no order was found, and then it's going to go to ND. Else, row number is find range row, message box is row number, and then it goes R is R plus 1, so you keep searching through this. Now, we never did quite find it in using the previous one, but let's F8 through this and find out how fast it goes using this method. So I'm going to go F8. And then it's basically looking at the whole column as a whole. And then it's going row number, and then it's going find row. So using the second method is a very efficient, more efficient method of searching for a number in a long list of data. So what I will do is I will include this file for you to download in this lesson so you can try both of these, and it's a very efficient thing to use. So now we're going to go through some common errors. Remember our lots of loops that we've done? Now, a big one people always forget is if you forget to put the next C in for the next column here. So let's click in front of the next, and I'm going to put a comment so that it doesn't exist there. It turns green. And so now I'm going to try to run this and see what happens. And you get compile error, loop without a do loop, and it doesn't realize that there's not a for loop there, but it knows that there's that something's missing, so it's telling you that there's no loop with the do loop, and actually there is, but you're missing the for loop here. So that's a common error that you will receive. So now I'm going to reset the code, and I'm going to take out the comment before the C. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the telling it what row to start on. So I'll take out this one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this again. And there you have application not defined. You haven't told it where to start from. And so there's another common error loop for you. So now I'm going to cancel this or end this, and then I'm going to take the comment off of the R error that we commonly get, and I get this all the time because I forget to count my ifs, is if we comment out an end if. So let's go here, and this is our nested if. We have if inside of another if, and so let's forget to take, we're going to comment out one of the ifs, and then let's go here and let's run this. And compiler next if, or next for it doesn't realize that the if is missing. What it figures out that there's something wrong with the for loop here because it doesn't end. But this is a common thing when you whenever I get a for and I have a next already there, I always go check my ifs to make sure that I have all my ifs in place.